Welcome to the history of writing.
On parlera de sa gloire sous le chaume bien long.
The earliest record of writing dates back to 3200 BCE in Mesopotamia. The Sumerians, the inhabitants of Mesopotamia at the time, used tablets made from damp clay that was flattened into the rough shape of a rectangle and then left out to dry after using a stylus to imprint a message on it. This stylus was created from either a small stick or a river reed. They would reuse the tablets by soaking the old ones in water to make the clay damp again and imprint a new message using their cuneiform. Now, you may be wondering, what in the world is cuneiform? Well, cuneiform is a system of writing that uses wedge-shaped characters and symbols that was used by an ancient civilization such as the Sumerians and was used from the early Bronze Age all the way up to the Common Era. So basically, the Sumerians created their own alphabet using symbols. And this creation of cuneiform essentially paved the way for the Egyptian hieroglyphics.
Il vous a parlé, grand-mère, il vous a parlé.
Records of Egyptian hieroglyphics date back to 2700 BCE. Hieroglyphs are the pictures that are used to represent a word or an idea and were generally carved into pyramids or stone walls using chisels and hammers. In fact, the term hieroglyph translates to sacred carving or word of the gods. Much like the Sumerians, the ancient Egyptians created their own system of writing. The Egyptians used hieroglyphs to tell their ancient stories, to pass on wisdom to the younger generations, and for worship, both for their gods and their pharaohs. The hieroglyphic system remained constant for its entire existence, which was roughly just over 2,000 years. The system had around 700 characters, and none of the meanings of these characters changed throughout the entire existence. Unfortunately, due to the increase in the Egyptian Christians during the 2nd and 3rd century of the Common Era, the carving of hieroglyphs became less and less, with the last known record of a hieroglyphic being carved dating back to 394 CE. After the Egyptian hieroglyphs died out, the world was finding new ways to communicate with one another, and so the Phoenician alphabet was created. In 1200 BCE, the Phoenicians created the very first alphabet that was composed of 22 letters. They were an ancient civilization that reigned from 1550 BCE to 300 BCE, and their alphabet was heavily influenced by the Egyptian hieroglyphs and the Sumerian cuneiform, as the characters in the alphabet were described as simplified version of the cuneiform from Mesopotamia and the hieroglyphs from ancient Egypt. The characters of the alphabet were written right to left, and vowels were not included. The Phoenicians would record their writings using 3 different methods: papyrus writing, stone carvings, and metal inscriptions. Depending on the importance of the writing would determine the method used. The Phoenician alphabet laid the foundation for the ancient Greek alphabet, which later developed into the modern English alphabet we know today. It was approximately 1,000 years later when the Chinese invented paper during the 2nd century of the Common Era, making writing more portable and more affordable. It was invented in Liang, China by a court official by the name of Sai Lun. Lun began making paper by mixing mulberry bark, hemp, old rags and water, mashing this mixture into a pulp before finally stretching it out into a thin mat and hanging it up to dry. This paper mixture was easy to make, easy to move, and was much easier to write on than silk or bamboo, causing the demand for paper to go up. Due to it being extremely portable, easy to use, and easy to make, the invention of paper helped evolve writing from clay tablets and stone carvings to portable pages, creating an increase in production of books as they were now easier and more affordable to make. While the invention of paper revolutionized writing in China, Lun's secret to making paper began to spread worldwide by the 8th century. Eventually, the creation of paper led to other inventions that advanced writing, such as the printing press. in 1440 by Johannes Gutenberg, the printing press allowed for the mass production of books, making it easier for the general public to access them. Gutenberg modeled the printing press after the screw press that was used to make wine by squishing olives and grapes underneath a wooden screw. He took his inspiration and basically made a larger version of it, making the wooden screw bigger and creating a wooden plate with text and ink on it, placing the sheet of paper between the screw and plate, pressing the paper on the plate, and printing the text on the piece of paper. Gutenberg eventually switched to metal plates as the oil-based ink he used worked better with metal and stuck to both metal and paper, unlike the wooden plates. On average, Gutenberg's printing could produce approximately 3,600 pages a day compared to the 40 pages a day printing by hand. Gutenberg mainly used his printing press to print Bibles to make them more accessible to the public. So basically, the printing press revolutionized writing as it allowed books to be produced at a more rapid rate than before, making books cheaper, giving the general public greater access to books and the publishing works of literature. While the printing press was a great invention, the typewriter was the next invention to change writing forever. Typewriter, invented by Christopher Latham in 1837, reshaped the way people produced written content in the 19th century as it allowed for writers such as poets, authors, and journalists to have easier access to a machine that offered speed, efficiency, legibility, making the typewriter a more convenient option for writing. Latham's first prototype was made from a piece of old table, a telegraph key, a carbon paper, piano wire, and a circular piece of glass. While the typewriter was invented in 1837, it wasn't mass-produced until 1847 by E. Remington and Sons, with the first model of typewriter being called the Remington. While typewriters were now in mass production, it still took approximately another 100 years before typewriters were used for personal use rather than just for business communication. So, to recap, the typewriter was an invention that revolutionized the writing industry and also paved the way for the modern keyboard with laptops and computers. The first email, sent in 1971 by a computer engineer by the name of Ray Tomlinson, changed the way people communicated with each other through written means. It kickstarted the development of our modern-day emails and other electronic communications, allowing people to send letters through computers. Tomlinson sent it to himself to test to see if it would work, using the @ symbol to separate the user's name from the computer name. Once it was created, email changed writing as more people began sending messages and letters via email, as it was faster, cheaper, and more accessible way for people to send them than handwritten letters, making it more convenient. The creation of email also changed the tone of writing that people would write in, as it became more of an informal way to communicate with others, causing the language to go from formal to slang. And that is officially the history of writing. It is honestly just so amazing to think about how far we've come from clay tablets and cuneiform all the way to the very first email. Anyway, that is everything for today. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Hope to see you all next time. Bye bye!